Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Network podcast, brought to you by PlayNFC.com.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our High Stakes Fantasy Network podcast. I'm your host, Greg Ambrosius, and we are continuing our NFBC Champions podcast week tonight as I interview another 2024 NFBC National Champion. It's been a fun couple of days so far. I interviewed Clark Olson, Steve Weimer, Jason Weir, and tonight I have another great champion with me. He's none other than Mike Mager, our 2024 NFBC Auction Champion. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Greg. Great to be here.
Yeah, not only that, you won the New York MTM Invitational Ultimate League. That's a good one. But, man, that auction championship was great. So I got to ask you, first of all, I always start with the weather. How's life in beautiful North Carolina while the rest of us suffer through this cold spell?
Well, I recently made the move down here in November, and it's been a fantastic move for us. We've had some very nice weather in the 60s a lot of times. We even broke 70 one day, but I have to confess, we're about 20 degrees today with a little light dusting. So I am not happy. I apparently brought the cold weather down from upstate New York with me.
No, I think it's all on the East Coast. It's the Midwest. We're all getting it right now. And I saw even like Dallas was like 1 degree. I was talking to Brady, and they were like 1 degree yesterday. So, yeah, it's cold. So for people that don't know, Mike is a diehard Yankees fan. He grew up in the New York area. He moved to North Carolina this past year to get away from the cold. And I assume you and your wife are liking that move right now. Is that correct?
Yes. We're all settled now and really enjoying it.
Yeah, and Mike is advising me I should do the same thing of go to Florida, get the hell out of Wisconsin. So I'm listening to you. I like what you're saying, and I think I am going to pursue this very soon. So, all right, I know that Mike the Mouth would want us to start this interview with your win in the New York Ultimate League, but we're going to save that one for last. Let's start with the NFBC Auction Championship title because it was very impressive. You dominated this contest from start to finish. You did it from the $2,500 Las Vegas Auction League. Very, very tough one. Now, this was your first national title with us. You have been real close before. We're going to talk about that, but talk about the elation of finally winning a national overall title.
Yeah, it was a combination of joy and relief. It was definitely something I had been hoping to do at some point, and was thrilled to finally break that bubble.
Yeah, let's talk about how close you've come before. Kids, take some notes on here because this is pretty damn impressive. Before you won the national championship this year, you were second in the Draft Champions National Championship in 2022, second in the Auction Championship in 2018, second in the main event overall in 2016, third in the main event overall 2015, fourth in the Auction Championship 2019, fourth in the Draft Champions in 2018, sixth in the Auction Championship in 2022, and yeah, for good measure, eighth in the main event in 2018. Now, Mike, it's got to be enjoyable to be that close, but it also has to be disappointing to be that close. So talk about the elation and the disappointment in those results.
You know, when you first get up there, it's thrilling, it's exciting, and you're happy to, be in competition for an overall. But after you've been there, a couple of times and not bring it home, it starts to get frustrating. And it was definitely weighing on me the last few times.
Yeah, definitely. All right. The Auction Championship is where you've been the closest in the past. And in fact, last year, you not only won one league title, you were involved with another team that finished fifth overall. Talk about having those two teams, partnering with somebody on one of them, and, battling for the overall title all year long.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I team up with my great friend Mark Winokur on a number of auction teams every year. And one of our teams last year did really well. We finished fifth overall. We came in second in our league. So I think it was Mark Northman who finished second overall in that league. But it was a lot of fun. It was great to have two teams, in competition for the overall spot.
Yeah, and sharing one with a buddy when it's successful is even better, right? I mean, you got two guys talking. I assume you guys talk throughout the year and do fab together and such, correct?
Oh yeah, we prep together, we make lineup decisions together, fab together, everything.
Yeah, definitely. All right. This is a great title, no doubt about it. But I know winning the main event overall title would be a dream come true. You've had 2 top 5 overall finishes. You're already considered one of the best players in the NFBC, but what would winning the main event overall title mean to your resume and the pocketbook?
It would be a big boost to both. It would be the icing on the cake. I mean, I'm thrilled to have finally taken home the auction championship on my first overall. But anyone who does the NFBC, if you give them a choice of which overall they want to win, it's the main event.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about this championship team. Again, this was the Las Vegas Friday morning $2,500 auction championship league filled with a bunch of good NFBC veterans. And yet, you finished with 139 league points and you won with 91.8% of all available points, 165 teams. That was the highest percentage ever in this contest. Talk about that. And I mean, even you were surprised, I'm sure, with the success of that.
Oh, without question. In fact, I left the draft not even feeling great about my team. I mean, I'm often wrong about that, but there are some teams that I feel very good about when I leave the draft. We'll talk about the Ultimate League. I felt I had a really good draft in that one. In this auction championship, I really didn't know how my team was. I had to kind of shift strategy early on in the auction, and my final team was not the one I envisioned building. So, that always leaves you a little bit uncomfortable with the outcome.
Yeah, I saw you talk to Tom about this. You had some starting pitchers you wanted to go after, and they kept going higher than you were willing to go. And so you had to change your strategy. And that's not easy to do, but that's a lesson to be learned by a lot of people. I mean, you can't just stick to what you are and then say, well, I'll pay $3 over for this guy because I want him that badly, right?
No. I mean, every now and then you get pushed, but you really have to have discipline and patience in these auctions, and you can't be wedded to a single strategy. You have to be flexible, and depending on how the room goes. And in that particular auction, I don't remember the details, but every single top starting pitcher seemed to be going higher than I expected, higher than AAV, and I just kept getting outbid. I thought I had a couple of them won, and someone would, outbid me by $1 at the last second, be cursing under my breath. But my plan was to have to roster 2 aces and 1 really strong closer. And I think I lost out on like my top 15 starting pitchers. I finally won Framer Valdez, probably for like $1 or $2 more than I wanted, to be honest. And I decided to kind of do a spread the wealth with the rest of the starting pitching and put the extra money into a second strong closer. And honestly, it worked out beautifully. I had auctioned Class A, and I took the extra money that the room wouldn't let me spend on the second ace and got Ryan Housley. And it worked out beautifully. I mean, I had, I think the 2 NL and AL leaders in saves. They both had tremendous ratios, and I didn't have to worry about fabbing for saves the entire season. So it worked out wonderfully. But not the team I planned on building. I'll readily confess that.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. You talk about the starting pitchers going for more. When we're doing online drafts, starting pitchers don't go as high in the drafting, and in the auctions, they don't quite go as high. When people sit down in Las Vegas, you start seeing those yellow stickers go earlier. And that, having been at Las Vegas and doing the live events. But even in the auctions, that can happen, right? Where people say, I want them. But then these online ones, you think you could pick one up later on in the auction or the draft or in free agency. But that's not the case at these live events with starting pitchers, right?
No, pitching gets pushed up every year. And, every year in the draft champions, we start out in the fall and you think, well, pitching's deep. And, it makes more sense to grab hitters early. But sure enough, come March, Skeens and Scooble are going to be up there. You're not going to get them in the late first round in a month from now.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's talk about the team build. You built the foundation around Shohei Ohtani, $35. Now, again, speculation at that time, especially when we were in Las Vegas, was he could really be involved in this gambling scandal. And on that Friday and Saturday, people were really shying away from him. You bid $35. And again, he fell a little bit because, he wasn't going to pitch, of course. He was just going to hit. What did you see in Ohtani that didn't scare you away?
Well, there was it was definitely nerve-wracking at the time. I mean, I think his average auction value was closer to 40, so I did get a little bit of a discount on him, not as much as I might have hoped for, but it was definitely nerve-wracking. He had denied involvement, I think, at that point, but you never know where that story is going to go. But also, at some point, you have to take a little bit of risk if you're going to beat 14 really tough competitors in an auction. And, Ohtani at a slight discount seemed worth trying.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you got Matt Olson for $31, and you didn't get another hitter for over $17. Talk about that type of build, two guys in the 30s, nobody in the 20s. Is that common for you?
I wouldn't say it's common, but I do sometimes gravitate towards a more spread the wealth type approach. Although I'm not afraid to get a big hitter or big pitchers if I think it's worth the price.
Mm-hmm. So your only other $20 player you mentioned was Framber Valdez, $26. He was your ace. No other starting pitcher over $11. Again, probably not a common build for you, but like you said, it was because of the way the room pushed you, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. This starting staff doesn't look dominating on paper. I mean, Chris Bassett for 11, Bryce Miller for 10, Nestor Cortez for 8, Ryan Pepio for 7, Sean Manaea for 2, Dean Kramer for 1. How did you feel about that staff after the auction was done?
Not great, which is why I didn't exactly think I had drafted an overall championship team. But I know we'll mention I did get Jared Jones in the reserves, and he was huge. Manaea was a fantastic $2 buy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Framber pitched really well, and I was definitely bolstered by the ratios and saves of my two closers. Yep. So that helped along the way. And I'm sure I picked up other pitchers in Fab at some point.
Yeah, the two closers, like you said, Emmanuel Clase for 19, Ryan Helsley for 13. You didn't anticipate getting him. You couldn't have done any better with those two guys. And, Steve Goodwin did this presentation out in Arizona Fall League Symposium about the national champions. And the majority of national champions had two closers that came through for them, and they didn't have to worry about that the rest of the year. I mean, that's easier said than done, right? I mean, you've paid for good closers and they've crapped the bed before. But that was a winning formula, getting two good closers, right?
Oh, without a doubt. And especially in a really tough league. I mean, if the extent closers became available in Fab, they were not going to be cheap in this league. Right. And so to not have to spend $300 on, one or two closers and be able to use that money on other players was huge.
Yep. I talked to Jason Weir last night. He won the online auction championship. He got two good guys in the reserve that just changed. Jackson Merrill was one of them, actually, and then Jack Flaherty. You in the reserve round, what do we have here? You got Bryce Terang with your first pick and then Jared Jones with your fourth pick. Now, I don't know if you kept Terang on your roster the whole time, but Jones, you did? So then those were two really big pickups, weren't they?
Oh, huge. To get 50 stolen bases from a reserve round pick is just, it's enormous. And he hit so much better than I ever anticipated him hitting, at least in the first half. He started tailing off in the second half, and I think I was doing well enough in steals that I benched him in certain periods, but he was huge for me. And without great starting pitching, Jared Jones was also huge for me.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Fab's always the key. You had a couple of nice pickups. You let me know if I missed a few, but Jurickson Profar for 13 on April 14th. Brent Rooker for 32 on April 21st. Reese Olson for 130 on June 9th. Talk about Fab and how important that is to this team.
Oh, it's incredible. I don't think you can even win a league without doing well in Fab, let alone an overall. I mean, it's a huge part of the game. No matter how well you draft, you're going to turn over at least a third of your roster, if not more. And you just have to, have some big hits in Fab to get up there in the overall.
Yeah. I look at championship rosters at the end of every year and I post them on the boards, and you guys churn through 3 to 4 guys every week. Now you didn't do that as much maybe, but at least 3 guys every week. Talk about your strategy of why you do that and what you're looking for when you're picking up new guys every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, it's a 6-month season, but it's a weekly game. So you're always trying to look ahead a couple hitters going to cores in 2 weeks, or pitchers with good matchups that you might want to stream. Even with 2 good closers, I was still bidding on, potential save specs in case, because you never know when there's going to be an injury and you might need someone.
Yeah.
Dealing with platoons in your starting lineup, you're always trying to improve the back end of your roster no matter what.
Yeah.
And I prefer to be active, and I usually don't make huge fat bids. I think I'm better off, trying to get $10, $20 guys than one $200 buy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to your title, the New York MTM Ultimate League Invitational. Now, I know you love this league. Cast of characters for sure, and the camaraderie that Mike has created with this contest is off the charts. So talk about this unique league and what's special about it to you.
Everything about it. I mean, it is probably my single favorite NFBC league to draft. Mike goes all out, pulls out all stops, and it's just a fantastic experience. It's a great group of guys, many of whom have been in this league for many years. In the past, we always used to go out for like a midnight steak dinner after the draft in New York City, and now we go to Shea MTM for post-draft festivities, and it was fantastic. It was great last year, and Mike does a super job getting that league together. And it's also, there's a lot of twists to it. It's a standalone league, so it's a little different. People can and have punted categories in the past, so there's that added element of strategy. Mike does the Iron Balls KDS, which, folks don't know. Mike has every owner's name engraved on a baseball, and they get pulled out of a bucket 5 minutes before the draft. So, in addition to the obvious pressure of drafting, in a $5,000 league, you also have the experience of not knowing where you're drafting from until 5 minutes before you start. Yeah. So it just adds like an extra element of excitement and strategy. I love everything about the league. He does a great job with it.
Yeah. You don't know where you're going to draft, but once you sit down, you've got your cheat sheets, you're well prepared. All you guys are well prepared, and it runs smoothly. This is my first time. I'm going to be going out to New Jersey. Obviously I've been out to New York City and ran this league before, but do I know what I'm getting myself into? A full weekend with Mike the Mouth?
Probably not. I expect that you will be tired and maybe a little grayer when you get back, but I'm sure you will have a good time, and Corona's on me.
All right, I'll warn my wife I'll be much grayer when I get back after spending 3 days with Mike there. So, all right, now the big thing about winning this title is you stopped the Fleming dynasty. I mean, Scott Fleming had won this thing 3 years in a row. You had finished second to him before that, but you toppled him last year. What did it take to beat him finally?
It took a near perfect draft to beat Scott. He's a fantastic player, and he has dominated this league like no one should be allowed to, but he's a fantastic competitor.
Yeah. Well, if I recall, you led this league pretty much from start to finish. You finished 10.5 points up. Eric Albright was second, but talk about how, again, you're out there in front and everyone's chasing you. That's where you want to be, but you want to be there at the end of the season, especially, right? And it's kind of tough, right?
No, I grew to hate that feeling. I was fortunate enough to I think I might have been in the lead after like week 1 or 2 in this league, and in the overall auction championship, I think I took first place overall in April or something, maybe the end of April. So I felt like I had a bullseye on my back the entire season, and so it was really nerve-wracking. And actually, unlike my auction team, this ultimate team, I kind of limped in like the last couple of weeks. I had a bigger lead 2, 3, 4 weeks out of the end of the season, and I was getting some injuries, had some blow-up starts, and I remember looking at it like, okay, I think I'm still safe, but I'm not feeling as comfortable as I was a month ago.
Yeah. When you're ahead that much, you look every morning and you probably think, how many points did I lose? Who's catching up to me? I mean, when you're in the 120s, 130s, there's not many more points you can get. So you're looking at everybody else behind you probably, right?
Oh, yeah. You're definitely in a defensive posture. Your upside is very limited and your downside is much greater.
Yeah, definitely. All right. You had the 10th pick in this league. Again, iron balls were picked out of the hat there. I don't remember. Were you picked like 10th or 11th? It wasn't one of your favorites, I don't assume.
Yeah, I think I was like the 11th ball drawn,
Yeah.
and someone went
back,
so I picked
right?
them.
Yeah. In fact, it might have even been Scott. I'm not even sure, but I think it might have been Scott that went back. All right, you had the 10th pick in this league. Again, you started out with Ohtani, came back with Pablo Lopez, Freddie Peralta. Talk about the start right there.
Well, this was, the week prior, so this was before the gambling controversy, and at that point, Ohtani was a definite target of mine if drafting in the middle. So, so I was happy with that pick, at least until the news broke the following week. And then I think I jumped Pablo up a little bit. I liked him. I wanted to get a couple of aces to back up Ohtani. I felt like I was off to a good, power speed start with Ohtani and wanted to get some good starting pitching.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's two guys that had 200 strikeouts the year before, right? So you're like, all right, I got 2 aces, I got 400 strikeouts, I'm off to the races. Then Randy Rosarina, another 2020 possible guy, but he didn't come through last year in the 4th round. Raisel Iglesias in round 5. William Contreras, very, very good pick in round 6. So again, did you like the start at that point?
I did. This was a draft I did like. I liked Iglesias where I got him. I just think he consistently puts up big saves numbers and good ratios.
Yep.
And William Contreras, I think I had on 5 of my 8 high stakes leagues.
Nice.
He was a definite target of mine where he was going last year.
Nice. Okay. So you took Iglesias in round 5, but then you didn't take a second closer until Kyle Finnegan in round 16. Very different from your auction, although you did say you were kind of forced into that. Talk about that strategy where you had one closer and then waited a long time.
Yeah, I thought maybe someone would be punting saves. It turned out that no one did, but in the past, people, 1 or 2 managers have punted saves, and so you could sometimes push it a little bit if for a second closer. And Finnegan was a guy I can't stand to watch, but he, despite maybe Hunter Harvey having better skills and a lot of people wanting Harvey to be the closer last year, the manager, the team was insistent that Finnegan was the guy. So I thought he was worth a gamble where I took him.
All right. Some great sleeper picks or great hits that you got were Teoscar Hernandez in round 8, Anthony Santander in round 12. I mean, a lot of championship teams had that dude on and getting him in round 12 and such. Bryce Terang again in round 23. Again, talk about how tough this draft was. This is very different from other leagues that you're in, but you felt real good afterwards. But this is a tough draft, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. No, this is a killer league. I mean, everyone in it is really a strong player. I just felt like I got a bunch of the guys that I kind of wanted in terms of targets. And that's how I evaluate my own drafts is who are my targets and how well did I do getting them. And and one other guy I'll mention is I think I got in round 30, I think I got Jeff Hoffman. It was such a great, kind of fill-in. Whenever I had a bad starting pitching matchup, just to throw him in for ratios and Ks and an occasional save was huge.
Nice. 30th pick. Very good. All right. Some fab pickups. Let's just talk about that. Tristan Casas for 34 on May 19th, Jared Jones for 109 on July 14th, and Robbie Ray for 179 on July 28th. Any other good pickups that helped this team out?
I don't know, Greg. Honestly, I'm like so laser focused on 2025 draft prep. I don't remember who I fabbed on this team.
All right, so let's talk about something more important then. Okay. You're getting this big ass trophy that MTM hands out, and Scott Flaming, he can't even carry it to his car. How the hell are you getting it back to North Carolina?
Well, I miss it. It's like that's. I was fortunate enough to win this league once my first year, a number of years ago. And I made the decision that instead of flying to New Jersey, which I would ordinarily do, there's just no way I'm flying with this thing. So I'm making the drive. I'm going to drive 500 miles so I can take this trophy home and put it in my house.
You could just put another luggage and bubble wrap it in the luggage if you flew.
I don't think I have a suitcase big enough for that thing.
I know. Like I said, Scott can barely hold it up when I take a picture of him. So I'll take a picture of you, but it'll probably be at the mansion that night when you've had a couple. But no, okay, that's a good one. All right, let's take a quick look at your history in the NFBC. It seems like you've been with us from day one, but you didn't join until 2012. So I got to ask you, what were you doing during all those years while we were building this damn thing? And when did you start playing fantasy baseball?
Yeah, I started relatively late. I grew up playing a lot of like Stratomatic, and I was always into baseball like that. But I didn't really start playing fantasy till like the early 2000s, and I did like the home office league, and then I got into like some ESPN, CBS like points leagues. But I was looking for better competition, more serious players, and somehow I kept reading about the NFBC, and I think it was like the winter of 2011 when I signed up for my first Draft Champions contest. And it sounds funny now talking to you about these high stake leagues, but I still remember like hemming and hawing for like 3 days before I pressed the button and spent $150 on a Draft Champions league, which I think was about triple, the amount that I'd ever spent on a single fantasy baseball league before. So, I guess the lesson is for folks, thinking about doing it, just jump in, find one at a price point you're comfortable with, give it a try, and and hopefully take your time. And if you can do well and build up a bankroll, you can move up to the bigger leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I talked to Jason Weir last night, and he did 1 league his first year, 2 leagues his second year, 3 leagues his third year. Finally felt comfortable and started moving on up. But same thing with you. You did Draft Champions and online. You did 1 online championship league per year your first 2 years. You won a DC league title that second year in 2013, had a couple second place finishes. So through 2 years, you felt a little more comfortable playing here. But I got to ask you, is there a learning curve in the NFBC? Does it take a little bit to learn fab, learn drafts, and all that rest?
Oh, without a doubt. And also for me, it was especially different because I had been coming from playing like head to head and points leagues, and so Roto was a whole new experience for me, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Yeah. But I think every step of the way. I mean, I think there's a learning curve, just your first NFBC leagues, tougher competition, getting used to Roto and the software and everything. And then doing Fab is definitely an adjustment. And I still feel like I could get better at Fab. I'm always learning with Fab. And but then also going from like, a Draft Champions or an online championship league up to the main event, that's another major adjustment.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. All right. Hang on one sec. So the third year in the NFBC, you joined the main event and you went to New York City for your first main event. Talk about jumping up that high, and what was it like when you went to New York City?
Oh, I was nervous. I mean, I forget what it was. Maybe it was like 1,500 a team, maybe at that point, something like that. And, I've been doing 150 and 350 leagues. So I was very nervous. I remember I became friends in doing a lot of Draft Champions leagues with Dan Kenyon. I remember exchanging emails with Dan, kind of asking him if he thought I was ready to try a main event. And Dan was great, very encouraging, gave me the confidence to go ahead and try. And the first year was rough. I remember, Dan and others had warned me, forget ADP, people are going to be jumping their guys left and right. But it was still surprising to me just how much of that, how different it was compared to the Draft Champions leagues that I had done before.
Yeah, you finished 6th in your league that first year in New York City, but then you won your league title and finished 3rd overall the next year. Talk about comeback player of the year. That was you, man. How'd you step up so fast?
I don't know. It was a thrilling ride. It was great to take one home, and I knew after the first experience that I needed to put more work into it. So I think I probably amped up my prep.
Nice. All right. Won your league title, second year playing main event, finished 3rd overall. The next year, 2016, you joined the MTM. It was a super league at that time, $2,500. You won that league title as well. You also won your main event league title that year, finished 2nd overall. So 2015, 2016, you got the hang of this thing for sure. How close were you to winning the overall that year when you finished 2nd overall?
Not that close, I don't think.
Okay.
I remember like moving up, and I was really happy because getting third in the overall, kind of out of the blue, a newer player. I wanted to, kind of back it up and show
Yeah.
it wasn't a fluke, and I was happy to do that. But the year I came in second, it was the year Rob Silver won, and he had a dominant team. I think he had just an awesome pitching staff from what I remember. I remember looking at his team and thinking, yeah, no, I'm not catching him. So hopefully I made it interesting for him, but I don't think I was really on the verge of winning that.
Nice. I hope he bought you a beer, or either you bought him a beer after that. But good stuff. All right. So how about winning the Super League, the MTM Super League? Your incarnation into this group of guys went pretty good, right?
Oh, it went fantastically. Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, and Mike couldn't have been more welcoming. I think the year before I joined, Mike let me join everyone for dinner after the draft. I got to meet everyone. It just seemed like such a fun league and such great competitors. It was definitely became something I wanted to do.
Yeah. All right. You came out to Las Vegas for the first time the next year, 2017, met a whole new group of NFBC owners. Talk about that experience of doing, well, first of all, both weekends, New York and then Las Vegas, but also meeting some of the guys that you knew, from draft champions leagues and such like that.
Oh, that was fantastic. So quick story about that. Our kids are all grown and out of the house now, but they weren't back then.
Yeah.
They were a little younger, and I loved drafting in New York. It quickly became my favorite weekend. Loved the NFBC live events, but I had always wanted to try Vegas, and it was just living in upstate New York, it was just an easy train ride to New York City. Getting to Vegas and renting a hotel for a whole bunch of nights is a bigger investment. When the Christmas that year before, my wife surprised me with plane tickets to Vegas and said, wow. Go have fun. And my poor wife had no idea that I would love it so much it would become an every year thing. So God bless her. She's so patient with me. But I just had a fantastic time. These are like my two favorite weekends of the year. I heard you mention it recently, but it truly is like a family reunion. Once you go a couple of times and get to know everyone, I've made a lot of friends. Obviously, I'm great friends with Mark Winokur. I've made a lot of other friends too, and it's like a family reunion every year. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
I can't recommend the live events highly enough. For anyone on the fence, just go and do it. Make it happen.
Yeah, it's definitely great. There's no doubt about that. All right. You got into your first live auction league in 2017. Again, by 2018, you were finishing second overall. How did you quickly excel in that format?
I don't know. I just took to auctions. I couldn't, once I experienced auctions, it became the most fun format for me. I love snake drafts. I think in some ways they can be harder, more challenging. But if I can only do one draft, let it be an auction.
Yeah. You're in on every single player. People don't realize that, right? Because like when somebody's nominated, you're looking at your sheet and you're in, okay, at that price I'm in. Oh, now I'm out. It's just like 4 hours of intensity, right?
Oh yeah, they're very intense. Yep.
All right. So you've won 4 main event league titles so far. You haven't won one on your own since 2019. I talked about this with Clark. Sometimes you get in that where you're finished second, third. You don't quite get there. What's it going to take for you to win another main event league title and possibly the overall this year?
All I can tell you is I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm thankful for my success, but I realize it's been a few years in the main event, and that's definitely a priority for me this year, is to win at least one main event league.
Well, you are reinvesting some of your winnings back into the Platinum League for the first time this year. In fact, Clark is doing the same thing. Both of you guys are new guys into the Platinum League. Talk about that experience. I mean, again, it's $15,000, but it's a $120,000 league prize. Great competition, great camaraderie in that one as well. But that's an intense draft. Talk about getting into the Platinum League this year.
Yeah, nerve-wracking to do, but it's something I've always wanted to do. And I guess I just thought to myself, if I'm ever going to do it, I might as well do it after a year where I won big and
Yeah.
and can do that. So yeah, I'm going to give it a try. It's going to be intense competition. I know a bunch of the folks in that league and have competed with them before, and it's going to be a really tough league, but I'm definitely looking forward to the challenge.
Well, you sure got a busy weekend out in Las Vegas. You also have the CLQ Championship on Friday afternoon. You were one of 15 finalists in that. There's a $50,000 pot that was set aside last year, $30,000 to the league champion. Talk about what do you expect from that auction league? I mean, there's really no entry fee for it, so guys can just go all out for that league prize. What do you think the strategies are going to be there?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to go out for it no matter what, even if there was an extra buy-in. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's going to be fun. I mean, there's some. Well, first, everyone in the final table is fantastic. I mean, some of them just had unbelievable seasons, and every single one of them is going to be a tough competitor. I also know several of the guys in that league who are just fantastic at auctions. And then there's some that I have never auctioned against before, I mean, who maybe haven't done a lot of NFBC auctions, and they can still be fantastic at it and a total force at this, but they're entering the auctions as an unknown to a lot of us. And so I don't know which way it's going to go. And then, it is a standalone league, so people can either intentionally or unintentionally punt categories. So it should be a wild auction.
That's kind of what I meant was people could punt some categories and try to win the league prize or finish in the top 3 even, right? So this is interesting. So the CLQ Championship, again, was started by our customers. Toby Guaven came up with the idea. You take one main event team, one RotoWire Online Championship team, one Draft Champions team, and those 3 teams, you accumulate points, and the top 15 then meet in a live auction the next year. I mean, I didn't understand the format at first, and then once I got it, it was damn cool. What were your thoughts on that CLQ last year that debuted?
I thought it was a great idea. I mean, it combines multiple, drafting formats, and it's essentially a one-entry competition. Everyone can only have one entry in the CLQ, so it adds that as well. But it also had some surprising impacts that I thought really made it special. I mean, one was, I do maybe 10 Draft Champions leagues each off season, and I draft them, boom, like that. But when I was drafting my CLQ Draft Champions team, I was agonizing over everything. Which was, surprising to me. I didn't expect that. So it adds a little extra pressure in the drafts. And then my teams, I had a pretty strong, well-balanced Draft Champions team and a pretty strong Online Champions team. But my main event team in that competition was a Spencer Strider team. So I lost my ace, in week 2 or 3, and I just did a lousy job managing my pitching on that team. I had pretty good hitting, but my pitching was terrible, and that was why I was, kind of fluctuating between being in and out of the final table. I spent so much time for a team that finished in 8th place, just trying to, pound strikeouts and get any extra win I could just to, make that final table. So that was another kind of side benefit of the competition. It engaged me on a main event team that had no chance of cashing with.
Yep, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's also gotten some people to try the online championship that haven't done 12 teamers, or to try the draft champions who haven't done that. So it's been fantastic that way. Talk about the strategy of picking when you use your CLQ team. You haven't done any of them at this point, have you?
No, getting ready to. I'm probably going to do either my draft champions or online champions team next week, and maybe the other one the following week. So last year, in addition to having the pleasure of Strider go down on my main event team, my draft champions team, I started that draft with Garrett Cole, who I thought was the safest starting pitcher in the pool, only to have him miss half the season with a early injury. And so I decided that I wanted to wait until at least the teams got into spring training and got whatever injury news I can. I know there's going to be a ton more injuries, including to some of the guys I draft next week. But at least I wanted to wait until the influx of spring training news came out before drafting one of those teams.
All right, let's get one question here from online here. He's asking who would you rather have this season, Mike? Lawrence Butler or Riley Green?
I'll take Lawrence Butler in Sacramento. Gives a little more speed, and if you look under the hood, I thought a lot of what he did in the second half last year looks repeatable.
And what are we thinking about these new stadiums, bandbox stadiums, maybe for the Athletics and the Rays?
Yeah, I mean, I think Athletics, it's definitely a park upgrade. It may not be a pure hitters park, but it's got to be better than Oakland. And I hear the weather is hotter, so the balls will travel. Tampa, it's a replica of Yankee Stadium, so they're going to have this crazy schedule where they're going to play a lot of home games early and late, and be on the road for a lot in the middle of the season when it's hottest. But it's still Yankee Stadium in warmer weather, so I think it's going to play up, especially for the Rays left-handed bats.
Yeah,
and also be a little more nerve-wracking for the Rays right-handed starting pitchers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, watch those ballparks, folks, when you're drafting. All right, last one for you, Mike. KDS preferences right now. Where are you choosing?
Well, I think I'm about 13 drafts in, and I've yet to get a top 2 pick, so I am still hunting one of those. I'll be happy to start a draft with either Ohtani or Witt.
Yeah.
I really like Judge at 3, and my current thinking is after that there might be a kind of a glob of guys that I could be happy with, and so I might, if I can't get a top 3 pick, I might move back a little bit to the 8, 9, 10 area. But I do like to diversify my teams, so I think that's also going to be a consideration. I would hope to have some bigger teams that I draft early and in the middle and late as well.
All right, sounds good. Well, best of luck this year, Mike, and good luck in all your leagues, especially the CLQ Championship. Thanks for joining me tonight.
My pleasure, Greg. Great to be on with you.
All right, just a reminder, everyone, that tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going to be interviewing NFBC Hall of Famer John Posma, the winner of the NFBC RotoWire Online Championship last year. He won the overall title. We're going to have a lot of fun with John, who's a Packers fan as well. As you can see, I'm a Packers fan. So join us tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for this one-on-one interview. Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Thank you for joining us on the High Stakes Fantasy Network podcast. To get in the game, go to playnfc.com.